So welcome, welcome. If you are joining us right now, I am Charmaine Hammond. I'm one of the co-hosts, and I will be co-hosting with Joanna Severino from Prepskills. And we've got a couple of amazing guests here today. Who I'm going to introduce in just a few minutes. And then we're going to be diving into some questions that are on parents' minds, on students' minds, and on the minds of high school counselors. This is part of our free weekly sessions to help parents maximize their children's learning potential. And again, I'm Charmaine Hammond. I've worked in the area of mental health for many, many years, starting out as a correctional officer and then as a crisis response worker and a family mediator. And now I teach skills of resilience. And I met one of our guests, Ganz, many years ago. I just had the aha the other day that his children are no longer little, they're teenagers. And I was trying to wonder where all that time has gone. Joanna Severino is the founder and CEO of Prepskills, and this is part of the Prepskills PrepOnline series. Joanna is a mom of 3 incredible boys who I've been getting to know virtually, which has been great, Joanna. And Joanna has been an educator for 25 years, and Prepskills works with students, families, counselors in high schools, as well as athletic directors. And you're going to hear more about Prepskills as we go through the webinar today. We're living in some times right now that are different, unusual, stressful for many. Some people are very hopeful. There was a study that came out today, actually, by Angus, Reid. And it was perfect timing that this study came out today because the topic is today about mental health and resilience and how parents can help their children. And the Angus Reid study was saying that right now in these times that we are all living through, working in, and navigating through, 44%, this is a Canadian study, 44% of the people that responded to the study said that they are worried. 41% reported that they're anxious. 34%, and I was really delighted to see this statistic in the mix, 34% were feeling grateful for different things. But it's no surprise that worry, anxiety, stress is really prevalent right now for families. And that's why we wanted to bring on Dr. Ganz and Michelle Dowling and Michelle is with jack.org. Ganz has a practice, the Ferrance Group, and he has clinicians that work in different parts of Canada. So let me introduce our incredible guest today, and we'll give you their contact information later. So Michelle is the project manager for Be There, which is one of the programs offered through jack.org. And this is an engaging web-based resource that illuminates how we can be there for people, how we can be there for our loved ones when they are struggling with their mental health. Jack.org is doing some incredible work across Canada with students around mental health and resilience. And I know Michelle will share more as we go through our conversation today. And Dr. Ganz is a psychologist, he's a speaker and author, and since the early 90s, which is when I actually met Ganz, he's been helping families, individuals, and couples, as well as corporations, be able to manage stress, beat burnout, and really improve their mental health and their relationships. So we've got a really, really solid group today to help us navigate through this very, very important topic. Before we dive in, I'm going to ask all 3 of you, Joanna, Ganz, and Michelle, what have I missed? What is really important for the audience today to know about who you are, what you do, and who you serve? So Joanna, maybe I'll point it to you, and then we'll go to Ganz and then Michelle.
Sure. Basically at Prepskills, we support students in helping them find their future, primarily students who are going through transition. So they're transitioning to middle school, high school, and post-secondary. So we're really excited to bring this webinar series to support families and answer their questions.
Thank you. And Ganz.
Yeah, so for me, I guess the biggest thing to know for me that is that I know this stuff from both sides of the equation. So
Mm,
I've been working as a psychologist or in the psychology field for about 30 years, but I've also been a client for about that same time too. So I really believe that you have to work from the inside out. You have to do your
mm,
own work, be able to know stuff from the inside to be able to
yeah.
help people on the outside. And I've got, like you said, I got kids. So my youngest now is 16. My oldest is 20. So we've been through all this stuff. So I know it as a professional, but also as a parent.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Ganz. Thank you. And Michelle.
Yeah, I've been working at Jack.org for 2 years now. Joined Jack.org to build the resource be there. And since launching it last May, the reception's been amazing. And it's amazing to work at a mental health charity right now when mental health is starting to get the attention it deserves, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all really stretched and really stressed right
Yes.
now. So yeah, to work at a mental health charity with an online resource, I feel like I'm just kind of right where I need to be right now.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. Well, and today's conversation, we really want to provide people with some tips and some strategies and tools. And the interesting element that I'm finding about these times that we're all living in and coping through right now is that everyone is being affected. And I know from the work, Michelle, that you do and Dr. Ganz, I mean, there are questions at all levels of families. And Ganz, you raised a really interesting point that I know we'll talk about today as well, that a lot of counselors, high school counselors, are also schooling their children from home and then dealing with students. So it's a very complicated process, I think, right now. And let's dive into some questions. So let's make this a conversation, and we are recording it. So all of you can go back and listen to the information, and we'll make sure that we put links to all of the resources so that you can stay in touch with our guests. So the question I'd love to start out with, and if all three of you can share your perspectives on this, we are now in this time of doing school and academics online. This is new for the majority of people, I think. There was lots of challenges and bugs to work through in getting students so quickly working online. But then we also have parents who are working from home in many situations. Not all used to being together 24/7, 7 days a week, lots to get used to. And we're hearing from a lot of parents that they're feeling right now that they and their children are having far too much screen time. Like they are literally feeling glued to their computers, glued to their cell phones. Parents are worried about how that's impacting their children and teenagers' stress. How do we know when too much screen time is too much, and what could parents do around screen time to help their children be more resilient? So I'll just pass that over to whoever wants to answer.
Well, I'll start. So look at right now, these are really extraordinary times. I remember when they first announced where we are that, they're going to close the schools and do stuff online, and parents were scrambling, teachers were scrambling, students were worried. It's like, what's this? Well, some students were just celebrating actually, but but they're trying to figure out how to do this. And you're right. So there's lots of bugs. We kind of threw this stuff together. So to answer a couple of questions, one, during extraordinary times, I think we need to understand that we're going to have different types of reactions than we would normally have, right? We can expect, and I tell my clients and the folks that I talk to, I know that I'm at least 25 to 30% off of my normal, right? So not quite as sharp, maybe not forgetting, not remembering, not even speaking as well. Just things are different because there's so much stress and hustle to try to figure stuff out. But then there's stress in the environment, right? I mean, so even if we are personally doing okay, or our families are kind of managing okay, there's so much uncertainty and chaos in the environment. We're all feeling that, right?
Yeah.
And so given these situations, And given that we are trying to physically isolate and separate to slow down the transmission, there are going to be the need to connect and to do things in a different way. And so, yes, there are some recommendations around screen time, and we don't want to have too much screen time. That's a reality. And at the same time, the reality is all the rules are kind of out the window right now, right? So
yeah.
I would really recommend to parents that they cut themselves some slack and not try to stick with the rules that are good for normal times when we're in these exceptional times. There is going to be the necessity for more screen times. That's basically how we communicate at this point, right?
Yes.
And this is how the kids are going to be able to connect with their friends. I was talking to an adult client yesterday, and he was saying, yeah, it's great. I found this video game online. I'm able to talk to my friends, and it's awesome, and I said, this is very helpful. So if this is working for adults, I can only imagine what it's like for kids who are used to socializing every day with a whole bunch of people at school, right? So so cut yourself some slack. Don't, you know what I mean? Be easy on yourself, be easy on your kids, while at the same time, I would say build in some non-screen time, like deliberately into your day. So whether it's supper time or getting together to play some games, if you really want to sort of undo the screen time, if you can get out and be around nature, you know what I mean? Get outside, go for a walk as a family. If you're around some trees or some water or some grass or whatever you're around, that's really going to help to undo a lot of the screen time that we're out of necessity having to deal with right now.
Yeah, and thanks for that reminder about cutting ourselves some slack, because I think often, and I'm seeing this with a lot of folks that I know who have high school students, that they're sort of trying to cope with their typical expectation of themselves on a day-to-day basis. And Michelle, I'm sure that these are questions that come up with Jack.org, and you've got these incredible teenagers that you work with, the students that are leading the way as well and helping other students with issues around mental health. What's your perspective on this screen time issue and how it relates to mental health for students?
Yeah, Jack.org, we talk a lot about self-care. And I think the key to that is like listening to your body and knowing the signs for you, what indicates that you're stressed or that you're struggling or not doing well. And that might be different for everyone. We all have different sleep patterns. We all respond to stress differently. So really knowing yourself and knowing what those signs are that you need some more fresh air, or you need to, less screen time. So once you're able to like tune into that and notice changes in yourself, then we've been working from home, the Jack.org staff, and our connection to our network of youth is through the internet.
Right.
So as a staff team, we've also been struggling with it. And I guess we've tried to share some practical tips with one another. So really being critical of like whether this needs to be a video chat or not. And often just having a phone call, old school phone call, is sufficient. And then there's other times where to be able to look someone in the eye or see their facial expression is important. So, trying to reduce the time that you're looking at a screen by taking notes on pen and paper, talking on the phone. I mean, for me, I actually was seeing spots last Friday and had to was getting a migraine, and I never get migraines, and it was because of screen time.
Right.
So it really is serious. I think we're pushing ourselves to extremes in terms of connecting digitally, and so just taking care of myself, giving myself a break, lying down, closing my eyes. I have this little eye pillow that is like a bean bag that really helps your eyes relax.
Excellent.
And if you do have to work either doing school or talking with colleagues online, then try to find some recreational things that aren't online. So even though I usually at the end of the day like to unwind, watch Netflix, maybe video chat with my nephews and stuff, I've been finding that I've tried to switch a bit more to like painting or going for a walk, or just getting off my screen, being really conscious of it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
great.
you.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with Michelle's point about unique really passions that everyone has. So with my 3 boys, what I did was I actually asked them to create their own agendas. So what they did was come up with a schedule for the day, and it varied from my 14-year-old, 11-year-old, and 8-year-old. And we made sure to, as Dr. Ganz said, ensure that there was some outdoor time in the mix, for sure.
Yeah, very important. Such wisdom coming through. Michelle, your comment about pick your platform. I had that conversation yesterday in a training session I was doing with one of my clients, because they were also talking about feeling zoomed out, and just tired, Zoom fatigue. And so we were having that conversation of, isn't it great that we can use the cell phone or the phone in certain times? So pick your platform. Self-care, getting into nature, knowing your signs. These are fantastic tips. We're also hearing from parents that, we're in a time, and Joanna can speak to this as well, but we're in a time where students are thinking about applications, for example, to colleges and universities, and campuses are not able to do things that they often do at this time of year, like campus tours live. And there's so many changes right now in terms of processes and timelines that are affecting students. And we're hearing from a lot of teenagers and their parents that there's a building anxiety happening around the future of their education, their future of their academics. Any thoughts on that, Michelle Ganz, around how can we help reduce some of that anxiety and support students in a time that there are lots of unknowns right now?
I think it's about focusing on what you can control. And although it's very challenging, letting go of the things you can't.
Right.
So, maybe you can't go and tour a campus or see what it's like, but maybe you can talk to an older friend who has gone to that school. What's their experience been like? We have to get creative in how we get the information we need, or that sort of thing. But also, like Dr. Ganz said, these are exceptional times. Give yourself a break. Don't have to keep to the schedule that, was set for you, or that you set for yourself, but in totally different circumstances.
Right. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
No, I totally agree. I think, I guess the good thing about what we're going through right now is that everybody's going through it, right? And so there is a lot of uncertainty, and there are a lot of things that, would normally be done in a certain sequence, but all the rules are out the window. But I think, a lot of the young folks and parents as well, they get worried about, okay, well, what is going to happen with like just the academic credentialing or any of that stuff, right? And realistically, everybody's going through this. So there will be adjustments made, but we just don't know what those adjustments are right now, because I think the institutions are also scrambling to try to figure out how to do all this stuff and how to welcome people in. And, if they're going to be doing stuff live in September, or if they're going to be doing it virtually in September. And, we don't know. There are a lot of unanswered questions right now. And like Michelle was saying, there are certain things that we can't control. And, I just remember the serenity prayer that they use in AA, right? Yeah. It's like, give me the strength to change the things I can change, the patience to accept the things I can't change, the wisdom to know the difference. And so it's that patience to accept the things we can't change, and then put our energy towards things that do make a difference. And not only do they make a difference practically for our future, but as Michelle was saying, really giving us that sense of control, a sense of agency in our own lives again, which is extremely important in times of chaos and uncertainty, right? So that is one of the ways to help us as parents or as counselors, teachers, but also teach the kids that this is part of self-care, like experiencing our own autonomy and our own agency wherever we can. And then understanding that, you know what, it's going to be what it's going to be. And this may be an opportunity for us to start to practice getting okay, making peace with a little bit of uncertainty in our lives, knowing that because we're all in this together, there will be accommodations made for things like grades and timing and different things like that. So we'll make them. The schools we're in right now will make them, and the schools we're going to will have to make them as well.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, as I was listening to both of you and preparing for today's conversation, I was brought back to a memory yesterday about a teenager I worked with many, many lifetimes ago when I was a family mediator. And the family was going through a lot of change and chaos and crisis in their life. And I remember, I think he was 16, he just sort of burst out in the middle of the meeting and he said, "Mom, Dad, just tell me what is not changing." And I thought, what wisdom from a 16-year-old. And that was so many years ago, probably 20 years ago. And this young man might now be a parent himself. I take that lesson, and I think that's an important reminder for us, is that we are in this time of change and uncertainty. As you said, Ganz, there's not a lot of answers. Michelle, you were talking about there's so many things we don't know. But when we can also focus on what isn't changing, it helps provide stability, especially for students who are really struggling with rapid change. We don't all deal well with change. So I appreciate that you brought that up and reminded us, and to be kind to ourselves. It's not, it's not normally how we might deal with things.
Right. And figuring out what isn't changing, but also creating some stuff that we can control, like, getting up at the same time every day, making your bed. I mean, these are simple things, right? But they do help to establish some routine. And that helps to fill that need for control and stability in our lives. So I love that.
Thank you. Joanna, I know you've got some questions that you are bursting to ask. These have been coming from parents and school counselors.
Well, so one of the questions we had was around summer melt. So summer melt is a term coined to basically describe prospective college students moving on to post-secondary education and their motivation melting away as the summer progresses. Do you foresee there being an increase in the number of summer melt students over the term of this summer? And what can we do to help them, essentially?
So I'll start with that one. Probably, because just because there is so much chaos, and in a sense, school has ended earlier. Do you know what I mean? I know it's continued theoretically and technically, but in terms of students getting up and physically going to classes and doing that sort of thing, it's ended earlier. And so it can be a time when motivation does tend to seep away. It can be a time when they feel a little less connected to the whole academic experience and that sort of thing, right? So I would say, first of all, with parents and with students, what they can do, or with counselors who are trying to help the students, I think even talking about this concept helps, right? So that they can understand, oh, this is a thing. So, all right, so I'm not really that abnormal if I'm starting to feel a little flat around this time of year. Or, I remember when I was a student, between the summer, I'd forget which hand I was supposed to write with, right? Because I wasn't writing, it's so it's normal to have a little bit of that stuff kind of leak away in the summer. But if we're aware of that, then we can put things in place to kind of help us to stay kind of focused. One of the things is looking forward and saying, okay, what are my goals for the next year? What am I looking forward to when I go to college or go to the next year of school, whatever that is? Whether it's athletics, whether it's friends, whether it's certain courses we want to take, keeping that, having that in top of mind, and even writing it out and checking in on that maybe once or twice a week would be very helpful. I think also staying in touch with your academic skills. So whatever that is, if, again, writing, you know what I mean? Or reading something in the area that you want to study, doing different things like that can help you stay in touch with that and help you to maintain some of that motivation and that connection with the academics. I would say too, though, that given that these are kind of crazy times, there may also be the opposite effect, which is a real desire to get back into routine, get back into some sense of structure. And, oh man, I can't wait till I have to get up at 8:30 to get to class. You know what I mean? And so parents can actually talk to their kids about that, about, the new adventure that's coming when they do, particularly when you're going from high school to college, what that's going to be like, and have them to practice looking forward to that. I think that will be helpful.
Great. And Michelle, are there any resources at Be There that they could utilize?
Well, the nice thing about Be There is it's a set of guidelines teaching us how to support one another. And we call them the 5 golden rules. And they're specific enough that like you can grab one and be like, okay, I'm going to use this, I'm going to do that. But they're also general enough to apply to like lots of different situations, including the one we're in now. And, even though we're all going through this together, we are all experiencing it differently, right? Whether you're in different parts of the country or you have different living arrangements. There's some university students who are still living with like their housemates from this past year. And there's others who are at home with their parents. So whether you're with your peers or not, that's a huge difference. And different cultures deal with things different ways as well. But Be There's 5 golden rules. So there's say what you see. So really encouraging young people to look out for one another right now. There's some people who, will lose momentum, will just tank and don't want to do anything. And there's others who will be less affected and maybe can like lean on one another and stuff. Right. So noticing when there's changes in a friend, and having the courage and knowing how to start that conversation in a way that will be receptive to them. That's the start. And then the other golden rules kind of follow. So show you care, hear them out, like really listen. Don't try and just jump in telling them what to do. Know your role, which is probably the hardest one because, we try and support one another because we care about one another. And so it's really hard not to insert your advice or try to fix it for them, maybe especially for parents, but also for peers. And the last one's connect to help. So, all of those things together, they apply to any situation. So if you're recognizing that a peer, a friend of yours is struggling, like keeping up with academics and stuff, then maybe that's something you can touch base on and support them and connect them to different resources and, work together or whatever. But then it also applies to mental health struggles and just staying healthy right now and all these kinds of things. So I guess it's a general resource. It's not specifically for this, but it's very applicable.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, we've heard some concerns from counselors and teachers who don't have the same face time with their students. And so they're concerned about what might be happening domestically in households. When they were at school, they were able to have those discussions and chats with their students in person. What could they do now to support these students who are sort of out of their care in a sense?
Yeah, I think one thing is just reminding people of what resources are available. So like Kids Help Phone has really ramped up their operations, and just for people to just know that it's there, it's anonymous. You can text if maybe you're in a space where you don't have the privacy to be on a phone call. You can text, and there's really nothing that is too small to reach out for help about. So I think teachers or guidance counselors, like sharing that message and those types of resources with young people, even though you can't recognize and see like that student is struggling, just for everyone to know there's nothing that's too small to reach out and ask for help about, and there are resources like Kids Help Phone.
Yeah,
Great.
brilliant.
Yeah, and I would say two things. One, it's absolutely true, right? We don't have like this eye-to-eye, face-to-face stuff. We can see a lot, we tell a lot, we pick up a lot, and when we don't have that, especially if you're talking to a classroom of 15 kids and they're all in these little boxes, right? You don't actually get to see things in the same way, and you can't have one-on-one conversation. So that is a reality. So I would say, like Michelle was saying, make sure that they know what the resources are, and even just call it that this is more difficult. It is a more difficult time, and if you're in a situation where you're not as safe, or you don't have the privacy, or there's the heat has been turned up on a lot of stuff for a lot of families, whether it's economic uncertainty or just being all together in the same space, or a combination. It is more difficult. So reminding kids that there are places they can reach out, and if they can't, just walk down the hall and talk to the guidance counselor or their teacher, maybe they can text or call Kids Help Phone or some other resource that may be in the community. But I'd also say to the folks, the teachers and the counselors who are looking at this, it is more difficult. And again, it's probably going to be a theme on this call, but you may need to cut yourself some slack, because, and here's why, not that this situation is not serious, because it is serious and people are having some difficult times, but it doesn't do any good for us who are in the helping profession to burn ourselves out trying to deal with stuff that we have no control over. And then not be available to the people that we can help when we're needed, or when they are able to reach out for us. So, understand that it is a difficult situation. There will be things that need to shift and be adjusted. And you can't wear that, right? Make sure that we, in the helping profession, the people on the front lines, we're also doing our own work, connecting with people that support us, forgiving ourselves for not being able to do things in the same way that we're used to doing them when things are normal.
Yeah.
Great question that came in. How can we best capitalize on teaching our families the great family rules of conduct? What would you say are the paramount great family rules? What do you think?
Wow, that's a good question.
Isn't that a good one?
One of the things that I think, I like Michelle, one of your 5 golden rules was say what you see? Is that what it was? Yeah. So I like that, right? I think that's, for me, that's one of the big ones, is communication, right? It's being able to be immediate and direct and deliberate with your communication. When we're in a situation like this, things have changed. We're not used to being in the same place at the same time with the same level of intensity. So one of the things that I've done with my own family, I recommend that people do, sit down and call it like it is. We're stuck here together. What do we all need? You know what I mean? What do we need in terms of together time? What do we need in terms of alone time? Who is going to do what and when? How can we divvy up the household chores? And be very deliberate and explicit about that. And then write it down, because then when everybody knows what their roles are and everybody knows what they need, then we can get together. We can get along a lot better than trying to guess and assume and, be upset because somebody didn't do the things that we thought they should do when we thought they should do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. True.
Yeah.
True.
I'm not a parenting expert. This feels out of my depth in a lot of ways. But living in my household, I actually find myself applying the Be There golden rules a lot. Supporting my spouse in like mental health kind of things, but also building community with my housemates in just daily stuff. So like learning to really listen well, to validate, validation's really tricky and I think misunderstood. You can validate how someone's feeling without validating, potentially irresponsible actions or unacceptable behaviors, but it's important to validate how someone's feeling, and that's a big part of hear them out, third golden rule. So it's been quite a journey actually working at Jack.org, because I wasn't in the mental health field and came on as a project manager, and so developing this resource with experts and the team, I've learned so much, and like I really find it like applicable to my life all the time, whether it's my mom or my peers or family. It's helpful.
Thank you so much.
It's funny because I think that there are basic principles and rules that sort of just apply universally, right? And so this is a great time to, and that might be something we do as a family, sit down. It's like, what do you think we can learn from all this? What are some of those enduring principles that we're practicing or we need to practice more that help us get along and help us get through this, right? And because this can be an amazing time of opportunity to grow self-reflection, learning how to communicate, valuing, and I love that point, Michelle, about validation. Because it is often misunderstood that how a person feels is that's you can't judge that. You shouldn't judge that. It's just what they're experiencing right now. Yes, but we can still have some limits on the behaviors we're willing to accept coming in our direction at the same time, right? So great opportunity for kids or for couples or whoever to sort of explore that stuff and use this difficult time as an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that, Ganz, because I'm finding that what we're living and working through right now is sort of taking me back to some of my own kind of basics. And I found myself thinking a lot over the last few weeks about when I was a family mediator, and my role as a family mediator was facilitating families through tough conversations and through conflicts. And I know that in many families right now, the level of conflicts, so sibling rivalry, old issues in marriages and in relationships and in family dynamics, old issues are resurfacing because the stress level is high. And I think this is a great, as you called it, Ganz, an opportunity for us as families to be able to develop some new rules around how we manage conflict in a way that people are safe, people are respected, issues get resolved and sort of put to rest, so that families can spend quality time together as well. So really important. Speaking of friends, I'm hearing a lot from parents. I'm hearing the same question from school counselors and teachers and principals and athletic directors, that students are missing being physically with each other. And lots of parents are having to kind of reiterate this rule of physical distancing. And I had one parent say to me, I feel like I'm the bad guy all the time because, I've really put my foot down about where we go outside of our house. And sometimes their children are not looking at it through the same lens as the parents. So any thoughts around how can we help our students, our kids, stay connected in a way that is safe and still works for the parents and fosters healthy relationships?
I think one thing is to acknowledge like the losses that we're all experiencing. Some some young people are in relationships, are dating right now and can't see their partners. So it's not just, oh, I want to play basketball with my buddies. Like there's a lot of emotion and like real loss happening right now. And you know, or grandparents not seeing their grandkids for months, which is a big difference when they're like 1 to 1.5 or something. That's a lot of change is happening then. So I think it's really important to acknowledge those losses and grieve them, like make space to grieve them. Again, it goes back to that validation, like your feelings of frustration that you can't hang out the way you usually do and see your friends and stuff, or see your partner, those are valid. And don't jump too quickly to like, well, let's all hang out on our porches or let's, I don't know what the right solutions are, but just not to jump too quickly to those because like they're probably not going to be adequate, and we do need to grieve what we're losing.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, there will be a lot of grief around not being able to connect in the same way that we're used to, where we can, and to name it, like you said, Michelle, and then look for solutions that can help. And this is where that whole screen time thing comes back again, right? Because again, this is how many people of that generation connect anyway. And so they can do some of that and again, relax the rules a little bit. But I think it is important to talk about the limits on that so that you know, just, okay, well, I'm missing this, you know, face-to-face contact. So I'm going to like stay up all night and do this and you know what I mean? And then, you know, you get into other problems, right? But there can be other creative ways to connect, and it's not going to be the same. And I think we need to call that. It's just not the same. But, you know, given the situation, it should be temporary. We don't know how temporary or how long it's going to be, but you know, it should be temporary. And let's see what we can do to keep ourselves safe, keep our community safe, but still have that sense of being together or being in contact with each other. I heard a great one of my clients was mentioning that they did this, and again, an adult client, not even a kid, right? He said he called up his sister. And they basically watched a movie together, right? Because they queued up or like FaceTime or what is it, Netflix or whatever. Said, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Okay, and then they're on FaceTime and they're talking about the movie and you know what I mean? They're eating popcorn and you know what I mean. So and then the sister's on the other side of the country, right? And so it you know, there can be some creative ways to get that contact, but it's not going to be the same. But it can be hopefully a reasonable facsimile.
Yeah, it is amazing, like the cool platforms that are out there. So like the Netflix watch party, that's one that it syncs everything up for you. House party, you can, you know, play fun games. You can video chat on there. There's one I was exploring lately, was Goose Chase. But it's usually like an in-person scavenger hunt, but you can make the scavenger hunt whatever you want to be. And so it's, you know, take a picture of your dog, like there's just so many different platforms of ways to connect. And I know I've felt like I want to find things that are free. And that, I mean, you know, these are hard economic times and stuff. But I also have to remember, like, oh, but I'm not going to be playing in that softball league this summer, and I'm not going to be getting to go on a trip this summer. Like, so choosing things that find where you want to, what is valuable to you, right? Yeah. And there are really great platforms.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that we're going to see coming out of this whole experience is so much creativity and discovering all these kind of cool platforms and different ways of connecting and having finding other solutions to stuff. So, you know, that's something I'm hoping that we can all hold on to, and especially teach our kids to hold on to, is that in times of stress, well, they say, what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. right? And so there's going to be all these different things. It's like, I didn't know about Goose Chase. That sounds like a blast, right? So got to check it out now.
I didn't know about that one either. So, that's why I love doing these. I learned something new. I've learned so much today. Joanna, was there any final questions you want to ask? And then we'll go through some final tips.
Well, I think a couple of the questions had to do with focus and just general focus and motivation. Any tips around focus and motivation?
For me, it's about community. So at jack.org, there's thousands of youth across Canada who are part of chapters at their schools. And those look different right now because they're not meeting in person, but through social media, through, we actually are organizing some online conferences. We call them summits. And we have our national summit happening next week, where we're bringing hundreds of delegates together. So, finding ways to connect with your community, like that's where I find my motivation, because I need the momentum from other people. And like, when I'm low, I can kind of feed off that. And then when I'm doing some cool stuff, to share it with your community so that other people are inspired by that. So yeah, whether it's a chapter or, conference type webcasts that you can join in on, or if it's more on a micro scale of you and your besties or you and your family. To me, it's about connecting with people and encouraging one another that way.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, and I'd say for focus, a couple of things. One, understand your focus is going to be not as good now as it would normally be, right? So just factor that in. So what that means is, not beating yourself up for, kind of being distracted or losing focus now and then. But also it means maybe taking more frequent breaks, right? So, instead of taking a break every hour, maybe take one every half hour or maybe every 15 minutes, knowing that this is... it's strategic, practical, and responsible, because these are extraordinary times. But it always comes back to, as well, doing the other stuff away from the game. So we focus better when we're well rested, when we're well fed, when we're, just those like really practical nuts and bolts type of things that we need to do for ourselves to keep ourselves healthy. When we do those things, focus becomes a little bit easier. And then, another practical tip is just monitoring, right? So what if you can put together like 15 minutes of focus, then put a little check mark on a piece of paper and, see if you can see how long of a chain you can make. You know what I mean? Just any little game that you can play to help monitor your focus helps you to build that muscle and be able to stay there. But again, cut yourself some slack. It's crazy times right now, right? So if we're not doing as well as we normally would, that's really, really normal given what we're going through.
Yeah, that's so helpful, because so many people, I think people compare themselves, and we compare ourselves to what we were doing 3 months ago, and we're not in 3 months ago. And really glad you brought up sleep and those very, very basics. Both of you have alluded to the importance of self-care and checking in with yourself and monitoring. And I think this is a great role that we play as family members and friends as well. Checking in on people, being there, the name of your program, Be There, Michelle. I think that's so essential, because I always think about, we never know what somebody's last 5 minutes were like. And you just showing up in their life and being present for them and being there is sometimes what it takes to move things forward and to access help and to get people connected to resources. Yeah.
And it's not easy. That's for sure. But it doesn't have to be complicated.
Right.
So there's actually some very simple steps, some guidelines that you can follow. It doesn't mean it's easy, but I don't think it has to be complicated.
Right.
And Be There also has a section called Be There for Yourself, which is the self-care piece. And, has some great videos and has like, I guess just the tip of like knowing yourself and knowing what fills you back up. Mm-hmm. So is it being creative? Is it getting your hands dirty? Is it being like, you know, go and sweat, get exercise? Like, what is it that fills you back up?
Yeah. Beautiful.
So you can focus.
Yes.
Yeah. And speaking of exercise, my boys are eating me out of house and home. So lots of eating, lots. I think we're all eating a lot. What could we do for exercise? And, you know, with the suspension of events and also suspension of athletics and sports, what could these students be doing to exercise and stay healthy?
Well, it is hard because a lot of the resources that we normally go to, like even the gyms or the Y or whatever, we can't get to, right? Yeah. And so honestly, you know, I think it's a great time for us as parents or caregivers to also get involved with the kids. Okay, so how can we play a game that's going to get us moving? It's going to get us outside. You know, we can only go for so many nature walks, right? So, you know, like, okay, we're going to play whatever, like paper plate frisbee in the house or whatever, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're just going to jump around. Or, you know, one of the things I used to love to play when I was a kid, and I play this with my own kids, is, you know, get a balloon and you play balloon volleyball, right? And it's just like, you know, just put a little thing over there and whatever. You can do little games in the house to get people moving and get people off their devices, get them interacting. But, you know, if they're a little older and have a little more discipline, then you could just say, okay, this is our opportunity to see what we can put together. Let's all exercise as a family or groups of people or each person if they want to do something by themselves and set up a little bit of a program that gives us that sense of structure, but also, to your point, Joanna, gets us moving and stuff so that we don't, you know, like all end up like 20 pounds heavier by the time we come out of this whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think it's important to remember, like, exercise should be fun, you know, and let's take it easy on ourselves and let's not focus on the numbers or the weight right now. It can be a very, very difficult time for people who struggle with like eating disorders or, you know, have tendencies towards disordered eating. So it's not really about like maintaining the perfect weight right now or getting like your summer body. It's about staying active for your own wellness, for feeling good, right? Yeah. And that involves having fun. I think dance parties are really underrated.
Yeah, virtual
you can dance anywhere. My friend has 2 little kids and they have a dance party every morning. That's how they wake up.
Nice. Love it.
I think that's great. But yeah, sort of focusing on feeling good rather than like any number or even discipline and moderation, I guess.
Yeah. Wow. Boy, this has been content rich. I have taken pages of notes. There will be more than one blog after today, put it that way. This has been really helpful. And, you know, your reminders from all 3 of you today around being kind to ourselves, being there for other people, knowing the signs, reaching out for help. It might not be easy, but it's important. When you are concerned about somebody else, reaching out. And we're going to be putting lots of resources here. I want to put the contact information up for both of you, Ganz and Michelle, because we want to make sure that people can actually get a hold of you. So Dr. Ganz at the Ferrance group is askdrgans.com. And, you know, please check out his resources, his podcast. His books are awesome. I love that. And michellejack.org, tons of resources on there. And also the Be There program that Michelle was talking about, you can find that at bethere.org. And of course, Prepskills, you can find out about Prepskills at prepskills.com. We've got some other webinars coming up May 6th, May 13th, and 20th, different topics every week. related to helping parents navigate through these times and help maximize their students' potential. So we hope that you'll continue to show up on our Wednesday webinars, always at noon Eastern time. And if you want to book a call with Joanna at Prepskills to find out more about how to support your children and students through the application process, or to learn more about the services there, you can actually book a phone call with Joanna and get on a phone like the old days. Phone calls, they are really important. So in one sentence, Ganz and Michelle, if there was one tip, one sentence that you could take us away with, what would that be?
I would say let's learn to be there for one another and for ourselves.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I'd say 2. I'm going to cheat.
You rule breaker.
Yeah, that's right. Cut yourself some slack. And 2, put your own mask on first. So self-care is really the foundation of all this stuff.
Nice. Do you have one to add, Joanna?
Really just be grateful. I think every day, be present, be grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're in this together. Yeah, lots of supports and connections. I want to thank you all for being here on this series. Again, Dr. Ganz and Michelle, just such rich content you shared with us today. Joanna, it's always a pleasure working with you, and we will look forward to next Wednesday. Thank you all for coming on to join. You can share the recording with people later. And again, we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.